Hi everyone. Let us today begin with Unit 2, which has one-dimensional problems. So far we have solved spring problems and one-dimensional bar elements using the Rayleigh-Ritz method and Galerkin method. So let's move on and solve for one-dimensional problems. So how to divide a given problem into smaller elements, the numbering scheme used, the global vector, etc. that we are going to see in this class. Okay, so we know that for one-dimensional problem, the stress, strain, displacement, loading, everything depends only on one variable. Okay, on one variable x. Okay, so the vectors u, okay, that is the displacement, is given in terms of u of x. Sigma, that is stress, is given as sigma x. Epsilon, strain, is given as epsilon x. The traction force T is also dependent on x, and the body force small f is given as f of x. So the stress strain and the strain displacement relations, stress strain is given by, okay, this is your stress strain relation, and the strain displacement relation is given by dou u by dou x. Okay, so this is your strain displacement. This we have seen in Unit 1 itself. So for one-dimensional problems, the differential volume dV, okay, is given by the cross-sectional area of the bar element into dx. Okay, so the area into dx. The loading, as we have discussed before, it consists of three types. So the first type is body force, which is small f. The second type was traction force, which was denoted by capital T, and the third one was point load, okay, which we denoted by P suffix I. So a body force is a distributed force acting on every elemental volume of the body, and it has the units. Okay, the body force is acting on every elemental part of the body and has the units force per unit volume. Okay, so what is example of a body force? We can say density. So if we are talking about density of RCC, reinforced concrete, the density is 25 kilonewton per meter cube. Okay, so this is nothing but the unit of force, and this is the unit of volume. Okay, the self weight due to gravity is an example of body force. Traction is a distributed force which is acting on the surface of the body, and it is defined, or the units of this are given as force per unit area. For one-dimensional body, traction force is defined as force per unit length. Okay, and this is done by taking the traction force to be the product of force per unit area with the perimeter of the cross section. Examples of traction force are frictional resistance, viscous drag, and surface shear. Okay, Pi, the point force, is nothing but a force which is acting at a point I. Okay, and if we want to define the displacement at the point I, we denote it by ui. It is the displacement in the x displacement at the point I. The basic idea of finite element modeling is to divide or discretize the region and express the displacement field in terms of values at some discrete points. So the stiffness and load concepts are developed using the potential energy and the Galerkin approach, which you all have already seen in the previous chapters. And after that, the boundary conditions are considered. Now, let us take an example of a bar element. Okay, so this is my bar element. As you see, the cross section of this is varying. This is my direction X. The bar is fixed at the top end. Okay, this is a one-dimensional bar loaded by traction force, body force, and point load. Okay, so traction force is this marked in red. Okay, so it's acting along the surface. Body force is the self weight of the bar given in blue. Okay, and there are 2 point forces which are acting. This is P1 and this is P2. Okay, so this is the problem we have. How do we solve using finite element method? Okay, so the first step in finite element method, okay, is division or discretization. That means we are dividing the given element into some smaller parts. Okay, so the first step is to model the bar as a stepped shaft. Okay, now how do we divide this? How do we decide? So wherever there is a point force, okay, we can take that as one node. So we have 2 point forces. Before that, let me write down. This is force T and this is small f, body force. Okay, so I will consider that there is a node here at point P1. Okay, and also I would divide this part here into 2. So let me take it. Why am I taking it as rectangles? It is because it will be easier for me to solve. Now we know that finite element method is not exact, but it is approximate. Okay, so what we have done here is we have divided it into smaller parts. So we are approximating, okay, something like this. Sorry. And we are dividing it. Okay, so there might be an omission of small curved parts, but if you see here there is extra that we are considering. Okay, so it is an approximation, as I said. So there might be a small difference in this actual and the thing that we have considered. Okay, there might be, but the answers are going to be very close. So that's the whole point of using FEM. It makes it simpler. Okay, so now since I have divided this element into a step, so this is why it's called a stepped shaft, because it is in form of steps. Now the next, the bar is modeled using 4 finite elements. That is, a bar is divided into 4 regions. Okay, so the average cross-sectional area within each region is evaluated and then used to define an element with uniform cross-section. Now, in the finite element model, every element connects 2 nodes. Okay, so the element numbers are circled to distinguish them from the node numbers. Okay, so now if I have to start numbering, let me label this as 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. These are my node numbers. If I want to, this is numbering of nodes. Now I have to number the elements. So this is 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, I am circling the element numbers so that I can differentiate between the node numbers and the element numbers. So that's why they are circled. In addition to the cross section, traction and body force are also treated as constant within each element. However, the cross-sectional area, the traction and body force can differ in magnitude from element to element. Better approximations are obtained by increasing the number of elements. So now I had divided this bar element only into 4 elements, 4 finite elements. If you want more results, more refined results or closer to the exact result, then you will have to divide it into smaller parts. So say 5 or 6, something like that. Okay. It is convenient to define a node at each location where a point load is applied. Okay, so that is why this node 2 is coinciding with the point where P1 is applied. Similarly, node 4 is coinciding with the point where P2 is applied. Okay, so this is my stepped shaft. Okay, now the numbering scheme for the one-dimensional problems. Every node is permitted to displace only in the positive or negative direction. Okay, so that means now if I'm taking node 2, okay, and this is my positive x direction. Okay, this is positive x. Okay, so node 2 will be moving either in this direction or it will be moving in this direction. Okay, either positive or negative. Okay, because it's a one-dimensional body. The 5-node finite element has 5 degrees of freedom. Since each node can move only in one direction, that is x direction. Okay, so there are 5 nodes, so 5 into 1. So the degree of freedom of this particular shaft element is 5. The displacements along each degree of freedom is denoted as Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 and Q5. The column vector Q, okay, now Q is given as this transpose. Actually it's a column vector. The column vector Q is given by Q equals to Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, Q5 transpose, and it is called the global displacement vector. I will come in detail about global and local a little later. Global displacement vector. As of now, in one-dimensional, you will need to know only global displacement vector. Okay, when we are doing two-dimensional, you will learn about global and local displacement vector. So the global displacement vector is given by this equation Q, and the global load vector capital F is given by F1, F2, F3, F4, F5 transpose. Okay, why we are doing transpose? Actually this should be in the form F1, F2, F3, F4, F5. Okay, this should be like this. So this is the global load vector. We'll continue in the next video.